What does it take to leave a seasoned traveler completely speechless after 40 years of exploring the most incredible places on Earth? I have walked the ancient streets of Kyoto at dawn. I have stood at the edge of the Himalayas and felt the cold wind strip every thought from my mind. I have eaten street food in Bangkok at midnight, ridden boats through the floating markets of Vietnam, and watched the sun rise over Angkor Wat with tears on my face. I have seen temples so old, they feel like dreams. I have slept in villages where electricity only arrived 10 years ago. I have traveled through monsoon rains, through dry seasons, through cultures so rich and layered that a lifetime would not be enough to understand them fully. And then I went to Singapore. I did not expect to feel anything new. After 40 years, I thought I had seen it all. I thought I had felt it all. I was wrong. Singapore reached into my chest and rearranged something. It reminded me why I started traveling in the first place. Today, I want to share 10 reasons why this tiny, extraordinary city left me completely speechless. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will either be booking a flight or deeply wishing you could.
Point 1. The cleanliness that actually changes how you feel. Now, I know what you are thinking. Everyone talks about how clean Singapore is. It sounds like a cliche at this point. But let me tell you something. There is a massive difference between hearing about something and actually standing inside it. I have visited clean cities before. Tokyo is immaculate. Zurich is beautiful. But Singapore operates on a completely different level. And what surprised me most was not the cleanliness itself. It was how that cleanliness made me feel on the inside. When you walk through Singapore, there is no tension in your body. There is no part of your brain quietly watching the ground or bracing for unpleasant smells or looking over your shoulder. That low hum of urban stress that you carry without even realizing it in most cities, it simply disappears. Your shoulders drop. Your breathing slows. You feel genuinely at ease. I walked through Chinatown at 11 at night and felt as calm as I would in my own garden. I ate at an outdoor hawker center and watched cleaners move silently and efficiently, like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Every bin was emptied. Every table was wiped. Every surface respected. After 40 years of navigating chaotic and beautiful cities across Asia, that peace was something I had forgotten to hope for. Singapore gave it back to me, quietly, without making a fuss about it at all.
Point 2. The food that makes you believe in magic. Coming from that sense of calm, let me take you somewhere even better. Let me take you to the food. I have eaten my way across Asia for 4 decades. That is not a boast. That is a way of life. I have slurped noodles in Penang at 6 in the morning. I have eaten grilled fish on a beach in Sri Lanka with my hands. I have sat in tiny noodle shops in Hong Kong where the broth has been simmering for 30 years. I thought I had eaten everything. Singapore humbled me completely. The hawker centers of Singapore are not just places to eat. They are living museums of human culture. At a single center, you can eat Hainanese chicken rice, laksa, char kway teow, roti prata, biryani, and satay, all within 50 meters of each other. Every dish carries the story of a community, a migration, a generation of hands that learned the recipe and refused to let it die. I sat at Maxwell Food Center one afternoon and ordered the chicken rice from Tian Tian. This dish is so famous that Gordon Ramsay tried to recreate it and admitted he could not quite match it. I understood why after the first bite. The rice was perfumed and silky. The chicken was impossibly tender. The chili sauce was alive with complexity. I sat there in the heat of the afternoon, eating slowly, wanting time to stop. After 40 years, food still made me feel like a child discovering the world for the first time. That is the gift Singapore gave me.
Point 3. The gardens by the bay that feel like another planet. After that meal, I walked. And the walk led me somewhere I was not fully prepared for, even though I had seen photographs. Nothing prepares you for gardens by the bay in person. These are not gardens in any traditional sense. They are a vision of what humanity could do when science, creativity, and genuine love for the natural world come together. The super trees rise 18 stories into the sky, wrapped in living plants and lit at night like something from a story you read as a child. They pulse with color and music during the evening light show, and standing beneath them, you feel small in the most wonderful way possible. But it was the inside of the cloud forest that undid me completely. You walk in, and there is a cool mist on your skin, and then you look up, and there is a waterfall. A 35-meter indoor waterfall surrounded by thousands of plants from mountain regions all over the world. Orchids and ferns and mosses hanging in layers of green so vivid they almost hurt your eyes. I stood at the top of the indoor walkway, looking out over a jungle inside a building in the middle of a city, and I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, because it was so unexpected and so beautiful that laughter was the only thing my body knew how to do. After 40 years, the world still surprised me. That is not nothing. That is everything. Point 4. The multicultural harmony that puts the rest of the world to shame. Leaving the gardens and walking back into the city, I started to notice something that took me a while to name. Something in the air between people. Something in the way strangers moved around each other. Singapore is home to Chinese, Malay, Indian, and Eurasian communities, along with thousands of expatriates from every corner of the globe. About 76% of the population is Chinese, around 15% is Malay, and about 9% is Indian. And these communities do not merely coexist. They weave together in ways that feel effortless, even though I know the work behind that effortlessness is enormous. I walked from Little India, where the air smelled of jasmine garlands and fresh curry leaves, into the Arab Quarter, where the golden domes of Sultan Mosque caught the afternoon light, into Chinatown, where red lanterns swayed above shops selling everything from dried mushrooms to jade bracelets. All of this within 20 minutes of walking. In each neighborhood, I saw every type of face. Young Malay women sitting beside elderly Chinese men. Indian families sharing tables with expat couples. Children from different backgrounds playing together with the casual ease of people who have never been taught to see difference as a threat. I have traveled enough to know that this kind of harmony is rare. It is precious. It is worth more than any skyline or any attraction. Singapore made me feel hopeful about people. After 40 years on the road, that is the rarest gift of all. Point 5. The architecture that tells a story of ambition. Carrying that hope with me, I started looking up. Because in Singapore, looking up is always rewarded. The architecture of this city is unlike anything else in Asia. It is not just modern, it is audaciously, almost recklessly ambitious. The Marina Bay Sands sits like a giant surfboard balanced on 3 towers, hovering over the bay with an infinity pool at the top, where the water appears to spill into the sky. I had seen it in photographs countless times. In person, it looked even more impossible. But what moved me more than the famous landmarks was the way old and new existed together so confidently.
The Peranakan shop houses of Emerald Hill, painted in soft yellows and mint greens and coral pinks, standing just minutes from towers of glass and steel that pierce the clouds. They do not apologize for each other. They complete each other. The Jewel at Changi Airport contains the world's tallest indoor waterfall, surrounded by 4 levels of lush forest gardens, inside an airport terminal. Let me say that again. Inside an airport. I arrived jet-lagged and bleary-eyed and walked through those doors, and my exhaustion simply evaporated. Singapore builds like it believes in the future. Standing inside its streets, that belief becomes contagious. I found myself standing straighter, walking with more energy, feeling, somehow, that anything was possible.
Point 6. The safety that gives you back your freedom. With that energy, I did something I rarely do in an unfamiliar city. I went out alone at 2 in the morning and just walked. Safety in travel is something you only truly appreciate when it is absent. I have been in cities where the rule after dark was simple: stay inside. I have walked streets where my instincts were constantly firing, where I held my bag close and made decisions about which alley not to enter. That vigilance is exhausting. It limits you. It puts a wall between you and the place you are trying to experience. Singapore dissolved that wall entirely. The streets at 2 in the morning were not empty. They were alive with people finishing late dinners, couples strolling along the river, groups of friends laughing outside convenience stores. Nobody was looking over their shoulder. Nobody was tense. The city had a relaxed, easy quality that felt almost surreal after decades of navigating more uncertain environments. Singapore has some of the strictest laws in the world, and opinions differ about those laws. But what I can tell you as a traveler is what those laws produce on the streets. They produce freedom. The freedom to be out at any hour. The freedom to leave your bag on a chair while you order food. The freedom to be fully present in a place without the low drumbeat of worry underneath everything. That freedom let me fall in love with Singapore in a way that more guarded places never quite allow. The Jewel at Changi Airport contains the world's tallest indoor waterfall, surrounded by 4 levels of lush forest gardens, inside an airport terminal. Let me say that again. Inside an airport. I arrived jet-lagged and bleary-eyed and walked through those doors, and my exhaustion simply evaporated. Singapore builds like it believes in the future. Standing inside its streets, that belief becomes contagious. I found myself standing straighter, walking with more energy, feeling somehow that anything was possible. Point 7. The efficiency that makes you rethink what is possible. Falling in love with a city also means falling in love with how it works, and how Singapore works is genuinely remarkable. I have navigated public transport systems across Asia for 40 years. Some are extraordinary. The Tokyo Metro is a wonder of precision. The Hong Kong MTR is a masterpiece of design. But Singapore's mass rapid transit, known as the MRT, operates at a level that regularly makes me stop and just appreciate it like a piece of art. Trains arrive every 2 to 3 minutes. Platforms are air-conditioned. Every sign is in 4 languages. The connections between lines are seamless and logical. I never once felt confused. I never once felt late. I never once felt stressed. In a city I had never lived in, I moved around like a local within 24 hours. But it goes beyond transport. Hawker centers have digital payment systems and food ordering apps. Government services are available online with almost no waiting. The airport operates with such calm efficiency that arriving there after a long flight feels genuinely restorative. There is a Singaporean phrase that captures the national spirit beautifully. The word is kiasu, which roughly means the fear of losing out or falling behind. Singaporeans use it to describe an intense drive to do things well and to stay ahead.
What I saw in the streets and the systems of this city was Kiyasu turned into something magnificent, a whole society that simply refuses to do things badly.
Point 8. The orchid gardens and natural beauty, hidden in plain sight. Appreciating all that efficiency, I still needed green. I still needed quiet. And Singapore, this city of glass and ambition, gave me something I did not expect. It gave me forests. The Singapore Botanic Gardens are a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the oldest in Asia. They cover over 150 hectares in the very heart of the city, and walking into them from the busy roads outside feels like stepping through a door into another world. Ancient rain trees spread their branches like open arms over grassy lawns. Families picnic in the shade. Elderly couples walk slowly arm in arm along paved paths. The National Orchid Garden inside the Botanic Gardens is home to over 1,000 species and 2,000 hybrids of orchid. There are orchids named after world leaders, celebrities, and diplomats who have visited Singapore. There are orchids in colors I did not know existed. Pale silver blossoms and deep burgundy petals, and flowers so intricately patterned they looked hand-painted. I spent 3 hours in that garden and did not want to leave. I sat on a bench surrounded by blooms and felt something I can only describe as gratitude. Gratitude for a city that, despite all its ambition and growth, chose to keep nature woven into its fabric rather than paving over it. In 40 years of travel, the places that move me most are always the ones that hold two opposites at once. Singapore holds modernity and nature, hustle and peace, and it holds them with extraordinary grace. Point 9. The stories carved into every neighborhood. Rested and restored by all that green, I went looking for stories. And in Singapore, stories are everywhere. The Peranakan culture, also known as Straits Chinese, is one of the most unique and fascinating in all of Southeast Asia. It developed when Chinese immigrants settled in the Straits settlements centuries ago and blended their culture with local Malay traditions. The result is a world of extraordinary color and detail. Peranakan homes are filled with hand-painted tiles, intricately carved furniture, and textiles so elaborate that a single piece can take months to create. I visited the Peranakan Museum in the restored Armenian Street area and spent an entire morning simply standing in front of display cases, marveling at beaded slippers so detailed they looked like paintings shrunk to the size of a hand. Wedding costumes so heavily embroidered that they weighed as much as a small child. And then I walked to Kampong Glam and stood outside the Sultan Mosque as the call to prayer rang out across the rooftops. I sat in a cafe on Arab Street, drinking strong kopi and watching the world pass by, and a man at the next table started talking to me. He was 68 years old. His grandfather had come from Yemen 100 years ago. His children spoke Malay, Mandarin, and English. He loved cricket, curry, and mondo pop. He was Singapore in one person, a living story of migration, mixing, and belonging. I could have listened to him for days. Point 10. The feeling that Singapore is a letter from the future. And now we arrive at the final reason, the one that quietly wrapped around everything else and held it all together. After 40 years of travel across Asia, I have watched countries and cities struggle. I have watched inequality widen, infrastructure crumble, and trust between governments and citizens erode. I have seen what happens when a society does not invest in its people, when leaders treat cities as personal assets rather than shared homes, when short-term thinking destroys what took generations to build. Singapore is an argument against all of that. This is a country with no natural resources, no oil, no vast farmland, no river of minerals running beneath its feet. What Singapore has
is human beings. And it decided many decades ago, under the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew, to treat those human beings as its greatest asset, to invest in education ferociously, to build infrastructure that respected people's time and dignity, to demand accountability from its leaders with the same intensity it demanded it from its citizens. The result is not perfect. Nowhere is. Singapore faces real challenges around freedom of expression, cost of living, and the pressures of an intensely competitive society. These things are real and they matter. But standing in Singapore and watching it work, watching people of different backgrounds build their lives with confidence and energy, watching a city that was swamp and fishing village just 150 years ago become one of the most admired places on Earth, I felt something I had almost forgotten how to feel. I felt hope. Deep, solid, evidence-based hope. Hope that human beings, when they choose to be serious about building something good, actually can. After 40 years exploring Asia, that is what left me speechless. Not just the gardens or the food or the gleaming buildings, the proof that it is possible.
So there you have it. 10 reasons why Singapore, after 40 years of travel across the most magnificent continent on Earth, still managed to stop me in my tracks and take my breath away. But here is what I want you to take away from this video. It is not a list of tourist spots. It is a feeling. The feeling that the world is still full of places that can surprise you, move you, and rearrange something inside you if you let them. Singapore reminded me that no matter how much you have seen, the world still has more to give. You just have to keep showing up with open eyes and an open heart. I have been traveling for 40 years, and I am still learning, still being surprised, still sitting on benches in foreign gardens feeling grateful to be alive and curious and out in the world. If this video made you want to pack a bag, I completely understand. And if it made you see Singapore in a new way, or reminded you why you love to travel, or just gave you 40 minutes of warmth and wonder, then I have done my job. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you been to Singapore? Was there a moment that stopped you in your tracks? Or is Singapore on your list and you are waiting for the right moment to go? Tell me everything in the comments below. I read every single one and I love hearing your stories. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps this channel reach more travelers and curious people around the world. And if you're new here and you want more stories like this, please subscribe. There are 40 years of adventure still to share, and I am not done yet.